Hello everyone, I'm Noel Lennon, and unfortunately we've had yet another bear problem on this channel. Instead of M134 Fanatic being eaten by one, Green Giant has been eaten by one on his way to the newsagents to get his copy of Woman's Weekly. Still, we're not here to talk about him, we're here to talk about bears, panda bears specifically. And the film I'll be reviewing today is Kung Fu Panda, Dreamworks' 2008 film about pandas. So, let's see what I think of it. I'm going to be honest, going to this movie I didn't really know what to think. A lot of Dreamworks' films don't really resonate with me, such as Shrek, Madagascar and B-Movie. I don't really enjoy those films just because I feel like I'm watching a different film to everyone else, because everyone else seems to love the Madagascar films. I've never really got into them. However, with Kung Fu Panda, I honestly think it's one of the only films I can watch that I can say it's a never judge a book by its cover film. As in, all the marketing stuff for this film, like trailers, posters and that, portrayed it as something I don't think it actually is. Like, for instance, the first trailer made it look like I don't know, it made it look like it didn't have the heart I think the film actually does, and it kind of made it look really shallow. So that's actually the first time I saw it, was the trailer that came with the Shrek 3 DVD, and I didn't really, it didn't look that interesting to me. It wasn't until Doug Walker's Dreamworks Ureri, nice wording, where I started to look at it differently, and I watched it and I completely fell in love with it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this review into sections. We're looking at the animation, the story, the score, and then I'm gonna look at the conclusion, and I'll try and include as many different mise-en-scène elements as I can as I go through the film. So let's start away with the story. Kung Fu Panda tells the story of Po. He's an overweight, bumbling, and just overall very, I would call, not a nerdy character, but definitely an underdog. He lives with his father in the Valley of Peace, and he dreams of being something more. He wants to escape that kind of life and get out of his dad's noodle restaurant. Jack Black voices Po, and I think he does a wonderful, wonderful job. A lot of people said it's just Jack Black as a panda, and I can kind of see that, but I think Jack Black just completely makes the role his own, and I think he injects the character with a lot of charisma and enthusiasm, and he seems to get what the character's about. And I think Jack Black does such a good job because he resonates with that character as well, just from interviews I've seen and that. James Hong plays Mr. Ping, and James Hong's a well-established actor. He's a veteran in playing characters on film and on stage and everything. But it's weird because a lot of things I said is Mr. Ping was going to be completely different until James Hong arrived. For instance, Mr. Ping wasn't going to be he wasn't going to own a noodle restaurant. It was only because James Hong's personal history, his father or grandfather owned one, that he decided to, because they thought it'd be funny, you know, like it'd be a funny, you can't picture a goose doing that. It seems quite a funny kind of setup, and in his words, he had a Chinese father, very stern and very, not stern, but very kind of crazy, and kind of, he wants the best for his son, and a Jewish mother, very, like a mother hen, the stereotype of a mother hen kind of thing. Those two characters live in the Valley of Peace. It's ironic it's called that because it's never peaceful. And Po idolises a group of kung fu masters known as the Furious Five, and they're all based off different styles of kung fu. There's Tigress, voiced by Angelina Jolie; Mantis, voiced by Seth Rogen; Crane, voiced by David Cross; Viper, voiced by Lucy Liu; and Monkey, voiced by Jackie Chan. And they're cool characters. Before I get into more of the story, I'll just kind of say that the only problem with the Furious Five is they're not given enough to do, and I'll get into that more, but I just want to say that right now. I think the actors portraying them are good. I just think that they're not given enough to do, and Po idolises these characters. He wants to, I don't know if he even wants to join them or just be like them. I think it's more just be like them. And yeah, I think that's, again, that's the thing we've seen before in stories like Luke Skywalker, like I said earlier. And Kung Fu Panda follows that traditional narrative of, you know, the hero's journey, like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. I do hope George edits in those films when I do that, because otherwise I look like a tit. So let's get into the story more in depth now. Grandmaster Oogway, voiced by Randall Duck Kim, he's a veteran Chinese actor like James Hong. He has a vision that Tai Lung, an evil snow leopard, voiced by Ian McShane, is coming back to the Valley of Peace to attack them. I'll get into more why later. Master Shifu, who is voiced by Dustin Hoffman, who has trained the five, decide that him and Shifu both agree that the Dragon Warrior needs to come along. Now the Dragon Warrior is basically, you see it in a lot of kind of, you know, like he's a chosen one basically. He's the one who will come and save them. And Oogway holds a tournament to decide which out of the five will be the Dragon Warrior, because he assumes that one of them will be the Dragon Warrior, and Shifu does as well. However, Po goes to the tournament just to see the five. He's no intention of going in there to be the Dragon Warrior, he just wants to see them. And through a lot of clumsy accidents, he ends up being picked by Oogway to be the Dragon Warrior. Now, obviously, this kind of trope we've seen before, you know, he's fat, he's clumsy, he's never done Kung Fu in his life, he shouldn't be the Dragon Warrior. And the five think that, Shifu thinks that, everyone, including Po, seem to think that, apart from Oogway. Oogway believes in him. And so the story is basically, can the five and Shifu train Po up to beat Tai Lung before he gets there? And can he truly become the Dragon Warrior before then? And yeah, it's quite a simple story, and I think it's simply told. It's just a simple story of him trying to better himself. But what I really like are the kind of characters, and how the characters reflect. Like, the characters are funny and everything. I like especially Po, because Po is such a likeable character with his enthusiasm and his determination, and I like the way his personality kind of meshes with the others is quite entertaining, and how he's completely out of his depth. I also think the supporting cast are very likeable. The five, for example, at the beginning they don't. But someone like Tigress openly resent Po just for kind of stealing that glory away from her. But people like characters like Mantis and Monkey seem to me kind of be more bemused by him, because they don't really seem to understand why he's been picked. And I think while they're simple characters, I think just the emotions they feel and how their reactions to Po are very genuine, and emotions that people would be having in that situation. So that's why I think they're interesting characters. But like it's pretty obvious by the end of the film that they started to respect Po and warm to his charm, his rather unique charm. Shifu, I think, is also quite a likeable character, because he's quite dry-witted, and he doesn't take any shit basically. And he's kind of stern and cold at the beginning. You start to realise why, because it's told in the story that Tai Lung is Shifu's adopted son, and kind of Tai Lung not being picked as the Dragon Warrior kind of made him angry. Let's just say made him angry, and he became evil and promised revenge and all that stuff. And Shifu just became bitter and stuff like that. And I think there's a deeper emotional side to the story when you like think of Shifu's feelings towards Tai Lung. Tigress is kind of, not resentment, but kind of like, she's quite cold because she's also Shifu's adopted child after Tai Lung, and just like, she feels quite, she didn't get much love basically as a child, and she just worked hard at Kung Fu because she knew she tried to make Shifu proud, which is, it's not very big, but that's her arc in this story, is that she's trying to make Shifu proud. And again, it's very subtle, but it's never really brought up, but you can see that's a character arc because she's different in the other films. And again, these things are very simple, they've been done before, but I like the way they're done in this film. I think they're interesting, and I think the characters are interesting enough. But like I said, I've seen this before, but I was never bored. You know what's going to happen, but I just enjoy the ride, if you know what I mean, that kind of thing. However, there's something about the story that kind of drags it down for me, and I think it's the weakest part, is Tai Lung. And it's not Ian McShane's performance as Tai Lung, because he's honestly pretty cool and he does get some funny lines, and his voice just matches the character, what the character's goals are and like what he should sound like. It's just, he's not developed. Like, why? Why did he go evil? Was he evil already? Or was it just because he wanted to make Shifu proud? But he's just basically a darker Tigress. Because there's little seeds of a good character in there, but they don't expand on it enough. I think that's the massive problem with Tai Lung. There's a lot of potential for a really, really great villain, but he's only pretty good. One of the examples I mean is when he fights Shifu at the end, and Shifu tells him he's proud of him, there's a slight hesitation from Tai Lung to finish Shifu, and expand on that. Expand on it, but they don't. They just kind of... In a way, I think that's one of Kung Fu Panda's biggest weaknesses, because it has to also appeal to a certain audience, it's kind of a kiddie audience. They want to see action. They want to see Poe get hurt and beat people up, whatever. So the warmer stuff like that kind of gets held back a bit. There's a good chunk of it in here, like Poe's self-loathing, and Poe's self-loathing is a very, that's not a kid. That's it's not a very kiddie thing. Self-loathing and hating himself and all that kind of thing. That's quite more of a mature theme, but just sometimes it has the kiddie stuff is too much, and it makes the more mature stuff seem a bit bad because it's not developed enough. Like the title I'm going to just mention is an example of that. And do I think the film would have been better with it? Yeah, but does it make me not like the film? No, because there is seeds of it, and I can use my imagination to. What I mean is, like, there's stuff there, and the stuff there is good. I just wish they would have done more of it, and they might do more of it at some point. But I can't. The story's enjoyable, so I think the story is really, really, really strong here. I'll talk about the sequel story when I get to that review, but I think it's probably better in that. The story's better in the sequel, but I'll get to that. Now, moving on to probably the film's strongest point next to its story is the animation. Dreamworks, up to this point, this was Dreamworks' most complex animation they've done up to 2008. I don't know about now, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful looking film. The night sky shots when the Sacred Peach Tree, the Sacred Pool of Tears, the fog, the mist, the fur detail, all of this looks amazing, and I really think it's even now I still think it's one of my favourite looking animated films. I love the setting. I love a lot of martial arts films. I love that setting of ancient China, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Crouching Tigress, Hidden Dragon, like that kind of I love that kind of setting. It always appealed to me. I love the kind of, I don't know, I just always love that kind of scenery and Chinese architecture. It just kind of appeals to me. So I think to see it fully realised with this kind of the cartooniness of it all, it looks amazing. And I really think like I've got a Blu-ray copy here, and I would suggest getting this because you can see how good that stuff actually looks, and combined with great sound design and all of that, I think it's to look at and listen to. It's a great film, and I just give it 10 out of 10 for the animation, and I really think it's something special, the animation. Do I think it's the greatest animation of all time? No, but I'd say for 2008, this was the best animated film. That's what I'll say to that. And I still think it's one of DreamWorks' strongest looking films. One of my favourite pieces of animation from the film is the dream sequence at the beginning, where Poe is daydreaming about being a legendary warrior in a very funny sequence, where the way it's drawn is very similar to Chinese legends. Like kind of drawn on wood, pretty much. That's what it seems like, and it's weird because it's a homage to both that kind of style of storytelling and legend, and also to Japanese manga. It's kind of a weird thing about what's basically a Chinese legend brought into an animated film. But that's one of my favourite sequences in the film because it's funny and it's gorgeous to look at, pretty much. That's kind of all I have to say about the animation. Animation is kind of like Majora's Mask for me. It's not enough. I cannot describe without showing a clip. I'm not going to show a clip because copyright, whatever. But I think you have to go and watch it to know what I'm talking about. And I would suggest getting a Blu-ray copy of it because it looks phenomenal. Now let's move on to one of the strongest aspects of this film, besides the other stuff I've talked about, the music. The music is once again done by Hans Zimmer, as I'm pretty sure he does every DreamWorks film, every one I know of. And I honestly think next to the sequel soundtrack, Kung Fu Panda 2, I think this is his best score that he's ever done for an animated film. It's amazing, and I don't mean to not include John Powell in that, because him and John Powell work together on this, but it's very, very strong stuff, and I really think it, again, like this, that combined with the animation, it's great. It's great. It's really, really great. That's all I can say. It's one of the only soundtracks that I can listen to completely all the way through without stopping. Some of my favourite tracks are the opening track Hero, which is hilariously over the top in an enjoyable way, like an 80s enjoyable way. Sacred Pool of Tears, which is epic in a 21st century way of epic, and Dragon Warrior Rises, which has the distinction of being the only track on the Kung Fu Panda soundtrack that made me cry. Yep. Now those are my 3 favourites, but I'm not going to say any track on there is weak because they're all pretty good. But those are my 3 favourites. Oh, and when the track where the five fight Tai Lung on the bridge was pretty epic. Those are my 3 favourites. The soundtrack's great, awesome. So in conclusion, now we've pretty much talked about everything we can. What do I think of the film in total? It's great. It really is. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. Before I say anything, I just want to thank Doug Walker for introducing me to it. It means a lot, man. Seriously, I really needed both of the films, but specifically the first one. I needed a time of my life when I needed it, and I think it kind of brightened my life up a bit. I won't go into detail because it's not important, but it brightened my day up really to watch it, and kind of it made me fall in love with films again because I went for a long period of not enjoying what I was watching, and that kind of reignited my passion for it because I could tell what heart went into it. And you know, that's just a personal thing. But let's get into the conclusion of the film now, even though I just said I was going to. The film looks amazing, the message is great, the characters are enjoyable, the narrative, while it's been done before, it's nothing new. It's told in a way that I enjoy. Like I said, it's been done before, but it's told in an enjoyable way, honestly. That's all I can say. That's my honest opinion about it. Don't go into it looking for like Citizen Kane level of storytelling. Go into it if you want something enjoyable and it's funny and it's fun, basically. If you're going for fun, that's why it's a fun film. The only weak parts are Tai Lung's character is slightly... He's underdeveloped. There are certain themes that could have been developed more... The more mature themes, but they just weren't, and that's just a personal thing. I would have enjoyed it more if it just went for making an enjoyable film instead of just kind of trying to appeal to different audiences. Also, I think the fact that the 5 don't get to do as much as they should have is another problem with it. But again, it's also Poe and Shifu can have their story arcs, and I'm fine with that. It's just that I enjoy the Furious 5's characters, and I enjoy the actors who play them. So it's just kind of disappointing to me, especially characters like Tigress, who are great characters, and I think Angelina Jolie gives them a level of depth that they just wouldn't have, and I would have just liked to have seen it expanded a bit upon. But if this review wasn't in depth enough, or if my points are a bit confused and you don't really understand what I'm trying to say, then click here, edit it here, George. So you can watch mine and Green Giant's commentary on the first film, and that's kind of got my full thoughts, my more in-depth thoughts. This is just kind of a short review, but also I've also done a review of the soundtrack, which will go here. And if you want to watch that, we go for it track by track and kind of break every track down, like you've seen on our other album reviews if you've watched any of them. Yeah, so that was Kung Fu Panda. Great film. Go buy it. I recommend the Blu-ray, this kind of copy of it, because you get the most out of the sound design and the animation. I hope you enjoyed this review, and for the next film we're going to be looking at the sequel, Kung Fu Panda 2. So I'll see you then, and we'll cry manly tears at the level of awesomeness. Also, just want to say Legends of Awesomeness sucks. Hello everyone, I'm Noel Lennon. Unfortunately, we've had yet another bear problem on this channel. Instead of Ethan being eaten by one, however, it's George who's been eaten by one. He was killed by... it hit his head straight off. Hello everyone, I'm Noel Lennon. Unfortunately, on this channel, we've had another bear problem. This time, Ethan wasn't eaten by one. Again, it was George. And he was killed on his way to the local news site. Fuck. I'm sorry, I was thinking of you getting your head taken off by one, just like one punch dead. It's really that fun. It's quite dark actually.